Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Retirement Readiness Podcast. Thanks so much for joining us as usual. We have Tim Reagan, the founder at PrairieView, and I'm Katie Umland, the head of marketing here.
Hey, Katie.
Hi. We're so glad you're with us today. We thought we would talk about traveling in retirement today. So ideas for traveling and exploring new places in retirement. I feel like that's...
Who wants to do that?
Yeah, I know, exactly. Yeah. I feel like that's like the top. When you think of retirement, I feel like you think of traveling.
Well, I think it's funny. It's one of those things. I almost think like people feel like I should want to retire or travel in retirement because we get people all the time that you'll be like, oh, what do you want to do? When we retire, we're going to travel. We're going to go to Europe. Oh, okay. How often do you travel now? Oh, we haven't vacationed in like 10 years, but once I hit retirement, we're there.
We're there.
Yeah.
It's like, that's like the milestone you have to get to, and then you can travel.
Yeah. And it's funny because we used to say in the business that, or we still do, it used to be back 20 years ago, retirement looked like I worked for the same company, I earned a pension, I retired, I took a cruise, and then I sat on my front porch, right? Yep. And it was like, that was it. And so I think that's still sometimes ingrained in people's thoughts.
I don't know. I think it also probably depends on like, where do your kids live? Do they live across the U.S. or abroad, and is that kind of pushing you to want to travel a little bit that way too?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. You talk a lot of times with people as they're looking to retire, and it goes both ways. My kids live far away, so I always travel to see them, or my kids live far away, so I have nothing holding me back, so I always go other places.
Yeah. They're not here to have weeknight dinners with, and
or little league games to go watch or whatever.
So how do people usually approach travel in retirement from what you've seen?
Yeah. And so it's kind of a little bit about what we were just talking about, where many times I think that people have this idea that when I hit retirement, I'm going to travel, and sometimes they have a bucket list. Sometimes they just have this concept of I want to travel. But what we find is usually, tiger doesn't change his stripes. And so usually it kind of mirrors what people have done while they were working is kind of how they live their life once they're in retirement. And so even though they think about travel, it sounds pretty cool. If they didn't do a lot of travel beforehand, it's not like a light switch. All of a sudden,
you're a homebody.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And to your point around, where kids end up, many times we find that clients start traveling more to see their kids and that kind of stuff. And so travel looks like a lot of different things for people. Sometimes it looks like I take a couple of big trips a year when I'm healthy and young and can enjoy it. For others, it looks like I snowbird and I'm gone for 3 months at a time during the winter time. It really depends on kind of what that lifestyle is that they're looking to have.
Yeah, I feel like I think of travel as vacations, but it could be, like you said, snowbirds, and they have a second home or... Yeah.
Well, and the thing, I don't know if it'll ever come true or not, or if it'll be a thing. One of the things I've always thought about with Sarah and I retiring is I thought it would be really cool if we could find a home base. I'm thinking like maybe pick somewhere in Italy and rent a furnished apartment for a year. When you think about that, I don't have to be there the whole year, but maybe I could go there for a month or two at a time, get to know the culture, get to know what it's like to live there, use that as a home base to travel to other parts of Europe. And when I think about it, I could probably do that for almost as expensive as going on a really nice cruise, because when you think about what's an apartment going to cost, well, all I need is a 1-bedroom kind of apartment or studio or something, and
especially if you're not planning on staying there all the time
for the whole time. Yeah.
That's funny. Alex and I were just talking about that, but on a less grandiose scale. And because Alex, my husband, works from home, he can work virtually wherever he wants. So we were thinking, like, should we love the idea of traveling even on weekends to close cities that aren't huge travel destinations, but like, hey, let's check out Cincinnati.
Yep.
Like, you don't have to go to Europe to.
Nope. Absolutely.
Let's discover our own backyard first. Yeah. But we've talked about that. Like, okay, well, how much could an Airbnb for a month in Cincinnati be?
Yeah.
Let's do a month in Cincinnati and explore nearby neighborhoods on the weekends.
Did you just put in a vacation request?
Yeah. For a month. We were just talking. We're just talking.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's funny because when you say that, so Sarah and I we like to travel, and for me, what I've often thought, so where we live and where we record is just outside of south side of Chicago, for those maybe who don't know. And near us, about a couple hours away, is a small town called Galena, which sits right on the Mississippi River. And in that town, there's lots of just shops and cute, fun stuff you can go do. There's a golf course, but like Ulysses S. Grant has a house there that you can go tour. And so one of the things I thought would be really cool is there's got to be 1,000 of those towns.
Yes.
So I'd love to start northern U.S. and just travel to Mississippi and go down and run into whatever town you run into, however long it takes, and kind of check them out. I bet you there's lots of cool things you could see
and
in
I
those
think
little
all
towns.
of your kids are saying, great, do that with mom. We've
yes,
done enough of these Ulysses S. Grant home tours with you.
Yes.
We know how this goes. We're bored outside and you're reading all the signs still.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and that was the thing I was thinking about. Sarah would not necessarily be on board with it all the way, but I think there's a lot of fun things you can do, like what would it look like to see all the president's homes? Those are things that you don't really think about, but when you're in retirement and now I have unlimited time,
yes, you
I
can
can
take your
choose
time.
those things. I would love to have the opportunity to maybe either rent an RV or own an RV, and I would like to drive from here to Alaska. To stop through the Canadian Rockies and see some things. That's stuff that you can do when I can say, okay, we're going to do this, and I don't care if it takes me.
I don't have to be home in a week
6 weeks or whatever. We can just do that. So to your point, like a lot of people think, oh, let me go overseas when I retire, but there is so much stuff that people can do when time is not your boundary. It really creates the freedom to do some things that.
When I think about our mom, I guess. If you don't know, I always forget that people maybe not know that we're brother and sister.
Otherwise, that just goes to the weird part of it.
Yeah. It's like, what are you guys talking about? Because we don't look enough alike.
No, yeah.
But I think about our mom and just the thought of international travel as she ages, I feel like gets more and more overwhelming to her. Like it just feels scarier for some reason. And so, I think that's like, they always road trip if they're gonna like go see Kelly, our sister, or anything. And I think because they are retired, they're like, great, we can spend 2 days on each side of the trip driving.
Yeah,
we don't have to.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, and it's sometimes more fun. You get to see more things that way too. So So from our perspective, when you start thinking about travel and retirement, it really kind of starts with that check in with yourself that says, am I saying I want to travel because I feel like I should? Am I saying I want to travel because I have specific destinations that I want to go to and kind of like check them off the box? Am I saying it just because it sounds like
this is what you should do?
Yeah,
in
a romanticized kind of a thing, And so for each of those, I think people should take different tacks. If it's something that you're feeling like, when I retire, I should travel, or it just sounds like the romanticized way to retire, whatever you want to call it, start by subscribing to a travel magazine or looking up travel websites and just start reading about what are different places that they're writing about. And you can today, as everybody knows, the world is unlimited to how specific you want to be. You could probably Google best places to camp in the U.S. Northwest and come up with 100 sites that'll tell you about all kinds of stuff. And so really kind of think about what you're interested in, what you enjoy. Do you enjoy road trips? Do you enjoy being herded like cattle through an airport? Do you what do you really like?
Or do you want to travel with a group that just plans the trip for you and you 100%. Just show up? Or do you want to control your trip and think of it all yourself and make your own itinerary?
Yeah.
Because it's a whole nother.
Well, it's so funny you say that because you were talking about mom, they just got back from Iceland and, hearing her and Al talk about how fun it was because everything was planned and they just got on the bus and they took them there and they, for me, for Sarah and I, that we're like, no, keep me away from that. I can't, I don't know if it's wanting to be a control freak or what, but it always seems like anytime we've done those types of things, whomever is in charge of it likes to stay too long at the thing I'm not interested in and not long enough at the thing that I am. And so,
Alex and I have only done one kind of group travel experience, and we traveled, the whole trip was on our own, but we booked one specific tour with a tour bus. It was in Napa. And we thought, great, because we don't want to drive to all these wineries. Like, obviously that's not safe. So we booked a bus group travel, and we get on the bus. And as soon as we sit down, the travel guide is like, okay, here's a barf bag. Pass them out. Hope nobody gets car sick on the bus. It's very windy, crazy roads. I'm like, this should have been in the description. Like, if this is the first thing you're telling us, Alex does get car sick. Luckily, we were like first seat in the bus, so he could see out, be close to the air conditioning. Like, it was like, I was like, oh no, it was an all day excursion. I'm like, if he gets sick at the beginning of this, what are we going to do? So there's pros and cons.
Or how about when you and Alex get on, and then the person gets on to tell you, like, okay, for all of you with walkers and wheelchairs,
yes, exactly.
And you're like, oh,
not our group.
Yeah, exactly.
But sometimes that could be the most fun.
It is.
If you think, oh, this isn't our style, and then it turns out it is.
It is. And which is all part of why people like to travel. It's the adventure. It's the unknown. So from our perspective, if you're thinking that travel is what you want to do, there's lots of ways that you can start getting ideas, and whether it's doing some web searches, and it's funny, like, once you start down that path, it's a path that leads to all kinds of places. Like, you start reading about, I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to, the towns you can visit on the Mississippi. And then all of a sudden you realize that leads to, oh, there's a group that does river tours across the U.S. Oh, I could sign up and be on a river cruise, or maybe go whitewater rafting, which is something else I want to do, on the Colorado, and no, I haven't told Sarah that one, because that's going to be like a camping trip. Yeah. And so, like, I think, like, multi-day on the river. Maybe start
with glamping.
Exactly.
But okay, so this just entered my mind. Is there some, like, is that part of retirement planning? Obviously, I know travel can be part of retirement planning, but do you ever say, like, okay, you have this big trip coming up in 5 years, how are we going to finance that? Like,
100%.
Let's start thinking about that today.
Absolutely, yeah. And what we actually do is, when we sit down and do retirement planning, even before retirement, if we know that some of that, it doesn't have to be planned out and say, I know I'm going on the Colorado River in 5 years. But if we know that going into retirement, there's going to be some things you want to do, then we can actually start mapping out and saying, how much can you afford to spend on a yearly basis, or in your travel? Or sometimes it is, okay, for the first couple of years, we're going to do all these road trips and hiking and stuff, kayaking, because we know that we're healthy enough. And then we're going to save some of our other trips, like taking the train through the Canadian Rockies or whatever, for times when we're not as agile, maybe, and map it out so that we can be more intentional with how we're doing those things. So
maybe we should find, like, a travel agent to partner with, because it seems like we have a lot of trips that well, that we personally want to take.
How about it? Well, it's funny, because I was talking to Sarah, I'm like, I wonder what it takes to become a travel agent, because I'm imagining that there's, like, tools that they have that I don't even know about, right?
Yes.
And so if I could, like, have their tools, and I could then, like, call and be like, hey, I'm a travel agent. Like, I got to get, like, special treatment. What
special room do you have?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, most of my clients really only enjoy, like, multi-bedroom, balconies on the cruise ship, like, all that stuff.
Show me what you have. I'll take a look.
Yeah.
They also really like to eat and drink nice things.
Yes, exactly. But no, I think that as people think about that, and think about how does this look in retirement, there's a difference between having an idea and just saying, let's wing it, versus let's have some specificity and really be intentional about it. Because one of the things, so a couple episodes ago, we talked about how the easiest way to go broke in retirement. And one of the things that we've seen is sometimes we encourage our clients to come out of working when they're young, when they're able to get around as much, and almost over travel in the beginning. But there's also times when clients will come out kind of too hot out of the box, and they start spending too much money. And then we have to kind of pare that back.
All right, let's rein it back in.
Yeah, exactly. And so it really is that balancing act of, let's be intentional so that we can live the best life that we can, do as much travel as we want to, but yet we're not spending so much money that we're going to be sorry when we're 77 and, can't do the things we want to do. So
sure. Okay. So I guess the takeaway is, we're ready to retire and travel.
And a lot of times, the best financial planning happens on trips.
Yeah,
right?
You get your best thoughts.
Yes, yeah, and so we have bag will travel.
Awesome. Is there anything that I forgot to ask or left out?
I don't think so. I think that's it.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us today on this episode of the Retirement Readiness Podcast. If you found any of it valuable, please like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
If you want to invite us on a trip, you can send us an email.
Yeah. We'll take any kind of communication for that, I guess. Until next time, be well.